get started, I do just have a couple of rules. If you are by an open window, or if you end up opening your windows at any point, all I ask is that you keep all your body parts inside the trolley for your safety, of course. But yeah. Yeah, Lester reserves the right to drive really close to a tree if you don't, alright? But yeah, so my other ask that I have of y'all is that we do have a pretty full trolley today, so I do also ask that we try to keep conversations to a minimum. That way we can respect other guests and make it really easy to accomplish our 3 goals. So I do have 3 goals for y'all today. The first goal is to have fun. Can we have fun?
Yeah!
Okay, a little iffy on the energy there. We'll see. The second. Are you gonna make him do it again, Lester? All right, one more time. Can we have fun? Yeah! That was way better. Absolutely. I've always said that, yeah. The second goal is to learn just a little bit of something. And the third and final goal, in just 90 minutes, make all of y'all want to move to Atlanta. Ooh. Now, speaking of moving, to get started here with just a little bit of demographics. Atlanta is situated in what is called the Bible Belt, which is a region in the southeast of America where religion is a very prominent part of the culture here. Now, I do have a little bit of trivia sprinkled throughout the tour for y'all today. So, first trivia question, does anybody want to take a guess? The #1 religion is actually college football, all right? Football, very seriously here in Georgia. Now, speaking of, we're getting ready to take a turn here, and we are going to pass by our Vatican, if you will. It's the College Football Hall of Fame. So, really cool interactive museum. You can test out your football skills in there. You can throw and punt and whatever else you do with football. So I wouldn't know. I'm not too much of a sporty person myself. But if you have a favorite team, you'll get a lanyard of that team. And then as you move through the museum, you'll get specific facts and information about the team you root for. So the whole museum experience is kind of tailored to wherever you cheer for. A really great addition to the downtown area. And then we coming up just on the right-hand side. There's even a portion of the building that's kind of like shaped like a football. Pretty cool architecture choice for the College Football Hall of Fame, just to the right. And then after we pass by here, coming up on the left-hand side, I do want to point out this gorgeous green space. This park here to the left was built for a very important event that happened here in Atlanta in 1996, which was the Olympics. That is correct. This park is called Centennial Olympic Park, and there's a lot of cool stuff to see inside, a lot of different tributes, statues, things related to the Olympic Games. I would say Centennial Olympic Park kind of serves as a focal point to the downtown area. It connects a lot of fun things and attractions here to do in downtown Atlanta. One of those attractions includes, to the left on the edge of the park there, you can see that Ferris wheel. That Ferris wheel is called the Sky View Ferris wheel, and it towers nearly 20 stories tall. It's a great way to get those views of the downtown skyline. It actually got its start over in Paris, France, and then made its way down to Pensacola, Florida, and is now here looking to buy it permanently so it can make its home right here off of Centennial Olympic Park. Okie dokie, so as we move through our route today, I do want to talk about a couple very prominent Atlanta businesses that were both found right here in Atlanta, Georgia. So the first business I'm going to mention, which I'm sure you guys are aware, that's on Coca-Cola territory, right? Yes? I do have to ask, do we have any Pepsi fans on board? Any Pepsi loyalists? I'm so sorry that Jordan's here for you. You're going to have to get off the trolley, all right? No Pepsi fans allowed. I don't drink. Lester's not messing around. He'll kick you off. But I would beware ordering a Pepsi in Atlanta. I told you he's not messing around. I would beware ordering a Pepsi in Atlanta. You will be judged, okay? That's just the way it rolls. But yeah, we'll talk a little bit about Coca-Cola history as we move through our route today. Just a few tidbits here and there. To the right, the second business I want to mention is CNN. So this is the old CNN headquarters. I say old headquarters because CNN was recently bought by Warner Media. So their offices moved to the Midtown area, but here today they're taking this huge complex of a building and starting to transform it into what is just called the Center. It's going to be a new dining entertainment center. So very excited for them to work on that transformation there. So Coca-Cola, CNN, very prominent businesses here in Atlanta. We're going to start moving on and start talking about our very famous sports arenas here in Atlanta. To the right is State Farm Arena, home to our professional basketball team, the Atlanta Hawks. That statue right there is of our most famed Hawks player, that is Dominique Wilkins. State Farm is also a really cool venue to catch a concert at. We've had The Who, Billie Eilish, The Weeknd, they all performed here. Last month, Usher and Cindy were here as well. So definitely a lot of cool artists moving through this venue, a fun place to catch a concert at. However, if you're an artist who is too big to be contained in State Farm, you performed just ahead of us here at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So Beyonce, Taylor Swift, they performed here, and the Benz is home to our professional football team, the Atlanta Falcons, and my favorite of our sports teams here in Atlanta, Atlanta United, which is our soccer team. To the right, in front of the doors, you can see a statue of a giant steel falcon, for the Falcons, of course.
Yeah.
Now, a crazy fun fact is that the eyeballs of that falcon over there are actually security cameras with facial recognition technology. So yeah, I had to double check that. I was like, that does not sound real at all. But no, it's actually security cameras in the eyeballs of that falcon over there. But yeah, so this stadium is a newer stadium, very fancy, high-tech, state-of-the-art. The final sticker price to build this thing was $1.6 billion with a B. Now, does anybody want to take a guess on how much a hot dog costs here? $10, $8, all
20?
guesses, 12, 5,
20?
20. You can all good guesses.
27.
That's a really good guess there. Wow, $27 hot dog is crazy. But yeah, you can actually get a hot dog for just $2.
I think that's the closest.
Yeah, they call it the People's Stadium. When it was being built, they surveyed the city. They were like, what do you want to see in your new stadium? And everybody responded, affordable concessions, please. So we were able to get just that, $2 hot dogs, $6 chicken tenders and fries, $6 draft beers as well. So definitely one of the many reasons we love events here in Atlanta. You can go to an event and not have to give up your whole paycheck for a meal with those crazy stadium prices you see these days. But yeah, so I would say for also this stadium holds 75,000 seats, so for sure bringing in a lot of visitors to the city. Now what I like to say is maybe you've had one too many $6 draft beers at the Benz and you forget where you are. Don't worry. All you have to do is look to your left past these construction cranes here, just under the State Farm Arena sign, those giant steel beams spelling out the name of our beloved city, spells out Atlanta. Kind of hidden in the architecture over there. Y'all see that? Right under that State Farm Arena sign, those giant steel beams spelled out Atlanta. Kind of takes a second to pop out at you. A little bit of a Kodak moment. Now it is kind of unavoidable not to mention all the construction going on here in this area. So this area down below us is affectionately known as the Gulch. It used to be a major railway hub all the way back in the 1820s, but is currently undergoing a 10-year revamp project. It's going to be a whole new district called Centennial Yards. So new shopping, new restaurants, new apartments, all down below us here. But due to a tiny little event coming to Atlanta called the FIFA World Cup in 2026, they're hoping to bump up this deadline and have this whole new area done by the time the cup gets here. So try to take that 10-year plan and squeeze it down to a 2-year plan, which is a bit of a tight squeeze, but we're going to try to make it work. So hopefully, if you guys come back and visit us in a couple of years, you'll have a whole new area down below us to explore. But alright, so that's just a glimpse of the future. I do, however, I want to hop back to the past and talk about Atlanta throughout the years. And it all started in this area down below us, that major railway hub I was talking about. So I would say what sets Atlanta apart from other cities is that we weren't found on a major body of water. There's no huge lake or ocean or river nearby for imports and exports. So the reason why we were able to become such a huge city of industry was because of our railway system. So we were the first inland port. We were the end of the Western and the Atlantic Railway line, where these two lines terminated. The original settlement was called Terminus. Now, a couple years later, they wanted to rename this little settlement after one of our founders, John Thrasher. They named it something very cool. They named it Thrasherville. I like that one. It's kind of rock and roll. Unfortunately, that one did not stick around for too long, though, because in 1845, they were like, let's rename it again. This time after our governor. However, there was a problem with our governor's name because his name was Governor Lumpkin, which is just not a cute name to name a city after. I don't think anybody wants a Lumpkinville. It's just not too appealing. So they compromised and they named it after his daughter, Martha, instead. And they went with Marthasville. Now, Marthasville is a beautiful name for a city, sure, but it's 1845. There's no computers, there's no copy-paste. The people who were working at the train station had to handwrite Marthasville in its entirety on every single ticket over and over and over again, and it just became a little too long and complicated. So, in the end, they decided to keep it simple. They derived it from that Atlantic railway line. Atlantic, make it pretty, make it fun. Atlantic becomes Atlanta, and has been ever since.
What about
Although, personally, I would not be too mad if they switched it back to Thrasherville, because that was obviously the coolest in my opinion, but that's just me. I keep trying to get them to switch it back, but they never listen to me. Would anybody sign my petition for Thrasherville 2025? Thank you. I knew I could count on y'all. I appreciate it. But anyways, we just turned on to Ted Turner Drive. Ted Turner, the CNN guy, he founded CNN in 1980, and it was the world's very first 24-hour news network. All right, and once we get towards the end of the Ted Turner Drive, I do want to point out to you all the Turner Building, where he has his penthouse condo and his restaurant as well, so we will keep our eyes peeled for that. But before we do get over there, we're going to kind of get a different angle of that Skyview Ferris wheel, going to be coming up on the left-hand side of the street. Yep, there it is, more on the right-hand side there.
Oh, I see it.
All right, and I do want to talk about this building that's in front of the Ferris wheel. So this huge red brick building, this is very historic. It was originally built as a church, so it has acoustics in mind for the gospel choir to sing, which made it perfect to be the House of Blues during the Olympics, and now a really cool concert venue owned by Live Nation. So yeah, this is called the Tabernacle. I don't know if you guys are comedy fans at all, if you know Dave Chappelle or Trevor Noah. They filmed their Netflix specials right here at the Tabernacle. And this building on the corner to the left-hand side is the Turner Building, where he has his penthouse condo and his restaurant on the first floor. Now, when you're a millionaire, there's a little thing you can do called whatever you want, and that includes having a ranch out in Montana with a bunch of bison and buffalo that he uses for his restaurant right there. So if y'all are craving a buffalo burger or something like that, Ted's Montana Grill is definitely the spot to get one. But we just turned onto Lucky Street, and I do like to take just a little bit of time here to talk about the film industry here in Atlanta, because over recent years, Atlanta has absolutely blown up for film and television. We rake in about $9.4 billion in film revenue per year, and people are calling us the Hollywood of the South. I've also heard Y'allywood, which is fun, a little bit of a southern twist on that. But this is for a very specific reason. This is because of tax breaks. So Georgia offers this huge tax credit to those who produce their films and TV shows right here in Georgia, making it way cheaper to do it here than it would be in LA or New York. So that's why everybody's coming to us to make the movies. Do we have any Marvel fans on board today? Anybody seen Avengers Infinity War? A couple of us here. Fantastic. All right, if you've seen Infinity War, I do want to show you guys a filming location from that movie. So to the left, we're getting ready to cross over the street in front of this brown building here. So this is the spot in the movie where Nick Fury gets snapped away by Thanos. Now, you'll be able to tell this is the spot, because there is no Nick Fury to be found here, all right? But anyways, Marvel and Atlanta, they really do have a close relationship. A lot of those superhero movies you see where they're like fighting in the streets of New York City, typically, it was just filmed in downtown Atlanta, made to look like New York City. So yeah, really just tons going on for the film industry here in Atlanta. The film industry is also why I personally moved to Atlanta. There's just so much production, so many new projects going on. It's a really good place for green actors like myself to get our starts here. So super fun to be involved with that. And I will show you guys some more filming locations as we move through our route today as well. But before we do that, to the left, above those trees there across the street, that gorgeous white building is called the Candler Building. Now, the Candler Building is named after Asa Candler, who was the founder of the Coca-Cola empire. This was the very first headquarters for Coca-Cola. It is now a beautiful hotel called the Candler Hotel. And once we get ready to take a turn onto Peachtree Street on the right-hand side, another historic building I'll point out to you guys. It's a one-window wide building, kind of gets wider as it goes back, that flat iron shape. It's Atlanta's very first skyscraper, towering 11 stories tall, back when skyscrapers only used to be 11 stories, so just to the right-hand side here. And yeah, 5 years older than the famous New York City Flatiron, so that's right, we did it first. That's just to the right here.
And they get the credit.
And exactly, yeah. So to the left here, this is another green space built for 96 Olympics. This is called Woodruff Park, named after Robert Woodruff, who is the second chairman/owner of Coca-Cola. And once we get towards the end of this park, coming up on the left-hand side, I do want to point out to y'all another statue. So this statue's name is called From the Ashes, and it's of a woman, you'll see in a second, it's of a woman holding up a bird. That bird she's holding up is a phoenix, which is kind of like our city symbol here in Atlanta, because we quite literally rose from the ashes in 1864 when most of the city was burned down during the Civil War. So that's why the Phoenix represents us. It's kind of like an overarching motif of rising up out of adversity, constantly evolving, improving ourselves, and progressing into the future. Alright, so as we head into this next pocket of the downtown area, you might notice we hit a slight incline to the streets here. So this is because in the early 1900s, Atlanta got its very first taste of that famous Atlanta traffic, and it kind of got dangerous just across the streets. People had to step over railway lines just to get to the other side. So what they did is they elevated the entire street system one level, and the leftover storefronts and streets down below became known as Atlanta Underground. So there's now about a 5-block radius of this 2-level street system, and now this whole area here is known as Underground Atlanta. So Underground Atlanta was Atlanta's very, very first indoor shopping mall, first entertainment, dining, shopping area. I do want to show you guys the entrance to the above ground section of Atlanta Underground, but before we do, to the left in the distance, our very first glimpse of that Georgia State Capitol. You guys can see that shining golden dome over there. Now, I do want you all to remember that gold, because we are going to talk about it in just a minute. But to the left and to the right-hand side, this is the above-ground portion of Atlanta Underground. Anybody on board seen the TV show Stranger Things? Are we Stranger Things fans? A couple of us here, fantastic. So you guys know the scenes in the TV show with the upside down. It was filmed in the actual underground part of Atlanta Underground. So the flipped, city under city feel was perfect for filming right here in Underground Atlanta. Alright, so we're going to take a little bit of time. We're going to get up close and personal to that Georgia State Capitol. And you guys remember that gold I pointed out to y'all? I do like to take a little poll. I like to see how many of us think it's real gold and how many of us think it's fake gold up there, alright? So, if you're a believer, think it's real gold, raise your hand. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anybody think it's fake gold? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, it looks like. And a couple undecided, that is okay. Well, I can assure you, it is 100% real gold from right here in Georgia, actually.
That's right. We don't fake the funk.
So it's from a little town about an hour and a half north of here. It's called Dahlonega. Dahlonega, Georgia. You can take a day trip there if you want. It's wine country. They got a lot of wine vineyards. You can go wine tasting. But what's really cool about Dahlonega is that it's the location for the very first gold rush in the entire United States. So way before California had its gold rush in 1849, Dahlonega had its gold rush in 1828, so about 20 years prior. And they wanted to be involved with building the state capitol, so they donated this gold to us. Now, it is very, very thin bills to pay. I don't know, don't judge us. Just a good indicator of how Atlanta's doing at that moment. But yeah, so we're taking a little bit more time to make our way towards that Georgia State Capitol. We're driving through this government federal district here of downtown, so this is like the area in Atlanta where all the business gets done. Now, before I do show you guys that state capitol, I want to show you guys my own personal favorite building in the downtown area, which is our City Hall Tower. Our City Hall Tower is going to be coming up on the right-hand side, just past this light. In my opinion, I think our City Hall Tower rivals the beauty of the state capitol, but y'all can be the judge of that for yourselves. I'm just a little biased towards like Gothic-style architecture, which is what you're going to see here on this building. To the right, our City Hall Tower. Love those gold accents as well on this building. And then at last, on the left-hand corner, that up-close view of the Georgia State Capitol and the grounds that surround it. Now, the grounds surrounding the state capitol here, they're all landscaped with native Georgia plants, as well as with statues of very prominent Georgia politicians. There is one statue on the grounds here, however, of somebody so influential to not only Georgia history, but to also U.S. history, that he is the only non-politician to have a statue on the grounds. Does anybody want to take a guess on who that is? Yeah, that's correct. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He's the only non-politician to have a statue at the state capitol. However, his statue's on the other side of the building, so if you all wanted to come back and explore on your own, you totally can. We do have a Capitol Museum. You can go inside our state capitol, take a tour, see the inside of the building. It is absolutely gorgeous, as well as checking out that MLK statue on the other side of the grounds. All right, so it is time. We are actually going to make our way outside of the downtown area, and I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. I'm kind of glad. Not that downtown is bad. Downtown is super cool. It's got the cool downtown attraction. I have y'all look to the right in the distance for the Olympic Stadium.
See it.
Now, the old structure of that stadium down there is called Fulton County Stadium, and that is where Hank Aaron hit his 715th home run that surpassed Babe Ruth's record. So, quite a bit of baseball history to that stadium down there. And it was the Brave Stadium for a while before they moved up to Truist Park in Marietta, and now, currently, Georgia State University Stadium. So Georgia State, one of our largest universities we have here in Georgia, they have over 53,000 students. So they currently have taken hold of that stadium down there. And then right next door is the Olympic torch, as well as the Olympic rings. Hanging over the street, we're getting ready to cross over in just a minute. So next trivia question, can anybody tell me who lit the Olympic torch in 1996? I'll give you guys a hint.
Mike Tyson.
That's right, Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali lit that 96 Olympic torch. Yeah, it was very inspiring. He had Parkinson's at the time, so very much a picture of, perseverance, overcoming, that he was able to light that 1996 Olympic torch. All right, directly to the right, a straight-on view of those Olympic rings. And if you guys want to twist around and look behind you to the left, another great view of that Georgia State Capitol from the other side of the building. I really love it when it's sunny out. Really makes that gold pop up there. And we are now entering Grant Park. So Grant Park is named after Lemuel Grant, who donated this land to the city to become the city's very first public park. Within Grant Park, there's a couple of barbecue spots I want to point out to y'all. If you're craving barbecue, Grant Park is definitely the place to be. Grant Park is also home to our Atlanta Zoo, which actually opened as Grant Park Zoo all the way back in the 1800s and kind of has an insane origin story. It all started from a traveling circus. They were making their way through this area on their way to Marietta. When they went totally bankrupt, they had no money left. They had to leave all of their circus animals just on the side of the road, just kind of hanging out in their cages. And it wasn't until a local businessman, he noticed the draw that these animals had, he noticed crowds gathering to check out these weird creatures. He had an idea, and sort of similar to the way that Grant Park got started, he bought up these animals from the circus and then donated them to the city, and thus Grant Park Zoo was born. Just a small menagerie of circus animals, and grew a little bit into what we know today to be the Atlanta Zoo, which can be found a couple blocks to our right in the Grant Park neighborhood. To the left, this spot is called Daddy D's, the first of the barbecue joints, I'll point out to y'all. Now you can tell it's good because it has a little piggy on the roof, that's how you know. Daddy D's, they specialize in sauce on barbecue or sauce mixed in with the meat. Our famous Atlanta street art, aka graffiti. Now there are open and commissioned spots all over town. This tunnel specifically is open, so if after the tour y'all want to grab some spray paint cans, make your mark in Atlanta, you're more than welcome to do so in this very tunnel. Anybody can add to it, it's open to the public. Yeah, really cool street art scene happening in Atlanta, and specifically in Old 4th Ward, which is our next neighborhood we're going to drive through now. So Old 4th Ward gets its name from when Atlanta was divided into voting districts, and this is the name of the voting district that kind of stuck around. Now the most famous street within Old 4th Ward is called Sweet Auburn Avenue, which is very significant to the civil rights movement and specifically to Dr. King's life himself. So we're going to be making our way towards Sweet Auburn Avenue for our halfway point for the tour. We're going to have about 10 minutes to get off the trolley and explore the King Center, which is like a living memorial for Dr. King. But as we start to make our way towards Sweet Auburn Avenue, I will point out a few fun things along the way. So show up to this church on a Sunday morning though, because it is in fact a bar. So what's interesting about Church Bar is every Wednesday night, which is tonight, if you guys are looking for something fun to do, they do karaoke. Not just any karaoke, they actually bring in an organist, and you can sing your favorite karaoke songs over an organ and put on a choir robe and really commit to having a fun time at church if that's your vibe. This is Edgewood Avenue, a lot of fun nightlife here. To the left, this spot is called Joystick. If you grew up playing arcade games or video games, that's a game bar. You can grab a drink, play some arcade games like Pac-Man, things like that. Really nostalgic vibes in there. So yeah, fun nightlife on Edgewood Avenue, but like I said, we're making our way towards Auburn Avenue. Anybody on board seen the Black Panther movie, the first one? Black Panther? Awesome.
Yeah.
So if you've seen Black Panther, coming up on the left-hand side, I'll present to you Oakland, California. So the very first scene of the movie where the kids are playing basketball, and he looks down below from this apartment building here, and that's where they took Wakanda from. So Oakland, California in the movie, but in reality filmed right here in Atlanta, Georgia. To our immediate right is Old Ebenezer Baptist Church. This is where Dr. King ministered, as well as his father and his grandfather. Now today it is a museum, but a congregation currently holds services. Okay, so we've approached our one and only opportunity to get off the trolley here. I'll give y'all just a little bit of instruction so you know where to go. What you're going to want to do is head up the stairs or the ramp, whatever you need. Follow the reflection pole. You're actually going to get to see the tomb of Dr. King and his wife Coretta. At the end of the reflection pole, there's a building called Freedom Hall, which unfortunately is closed today for maintenance. So if you hang a left, the trolley here is going to pull just up the street past this red brick building, so you can hang a left, make a loop, and not have to walk all the way back down here. Now if you need restrooms and more information, vending machines, things like that, to the left, under that awning, there's a visitor center just across the street there, attached to New Ebenezer Baptist Church. So we will meet you back at the trolley, let's say 1:45, about 12 minutes from now, 1:45. 145, the trolley's gonna be just up the street, so up and around.
Alright, so we are here at the Martin Luther King's National Historical Park. That's where we are at the moment. So it's just a stopover and also to have an idea of the history about Martin Luther King and also the struggles over here. So I'm just gonna go around and see what they have here. Honestly, yeah. So we have this. This is the Baptist Church. Okay, the Martin Luther King National Historical Park. And this is what the whole area looks like. Oh, that's our bus. Oh no. What's that? Ooh. It's a whole vibe. Okay. Yeah. This is the King Center. Oh god. Okay, so this is the King Center. Over here. Alright. So it's the King Center. I'm running over to the bus. Running over. Oh, where?
Anyway, so I would say 10-15 minutes is really just too short to spend at the King Center, especially when Freedom Hall is open. And there's just so much to do and see here, tons of museum options. This whole area is actually a national park, and park services work really hard to preserve the history on Auburn Avenue. So, like I said, Old Abbey's are down the street. That's a museum. They have docent-led tours about 3 times daily called Church Talks. And that visitor center I pointed out, they have hours worth of documentaries to check out. Another museum in this area on the corner to the right, this red brick building is Old Atlanta Fire Station number 6. What's cool about this fire station is that it was the very first fire station in Atlanta to integrate during the Civil Rights Movement. And to the left-hand side, these little houses are called shotgun homes. Now, the reason why they're called shotgun homes, if you open up the front door, you shoot a gun through the front door, the bullet's going to exit straight out the back door. So it's one long hallway connecting the front of the house to the back of the house. Very helpful for ventilation, especially in our hot Atlanta summers, keeping that air moving through the home. Kind of like the air conditioning before air conditioning was actually around, because those were built in the early 1900s. To the right, this yellow and brown house is the birth home of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So he was born in this very house in January of 1929, and he lived here until he was about 12 years old. Now you can see some construction going on. They are working on a restoration project here for the home, focusing on some structural integrity stuff, preserving the home. So about a year from now, they are going to reopen the doors to the public, and you'll be able to take tours of the birth home once more. Before they had started working on that restoration project, they worked with his sister, Christine, who actually passed away in 2023 at the age of 98. She led a very full life. They worked with her using her memory and photos to restore this house to exactly how it was from when they're growing up as kids. So very much looking forward to that reopening. But yeah, as we continue down Auburn Avenue, I do like to test y'all's knowledge on Dr. King just a little bit. Yeah, good question?
Yeah, about that. Wasn't Martin Luther King's house bombed?
There was an attempted, but no, they were not successful with that. Somebody tried to light it on fire a couple of months ago, but he's up to date on local news. A quick fun fact, did you guys know that Martin Luther is not the name that he was born with? There's actually another name on his birth certificate. Does anybody know what it is? Do you know it?
Reverend?
He was a reverend, that is a part of his style. But he was actually born Michael King Jr., and his father was Michael King Sr. His father, after a trip to Germany, was so inspired by the works of the German theologian Martin Luther that he renamed both himself and a 6-year-old son. So Michael didn't become Martin Luther until he was 6 years into his life. He got a name change, which is kind of a crazy fun fact. Not a ton of people know. So how old are you up here?
10.
You're 10? All right, how old are you? 5. So imagine if you got a whole new name right now. You were one name your whole life, and now you got a whole new name. Everybody has to call you something different. So that's what happened to Dr. King. So he was Martin Luther when he turned 6 years old. All right, so now if you guys do end up coming back to the King Center area, you're exploring, and you get a little hungry, I do have a recommendation for y'all, and that is to the left-hand corner here. This spot is called La Fruta, and as the name suggests, they have a lot of fruit. Yes, they have. They specialize in fruit cups and smoothies. The locals who live in this area, they love La Fruta, so I always like to shout them out. They hand cut over 13 different types of fruit, so definitely a fun place to stop by. Now I also do want to mention a super convenient way to get back to the King Center from the downtown area, and that is through our Atlanta streetcar. So our streetcar here in Atlanta is a 3-mile loop. It's got 12 different stops on it. It'll pick you up in front of Centennial Olympic Park, next to the Ferris wheel there, and take you right back to the King Center for just $1. It's very new, convenient, clean, easy to use. It's a great way to get tourists over here to the east side of the city to explore all the history here in this area. All right, so.
Do you know how late the park stays open?
I think around like typical old railway lines and converting them into walking and biking trails. So this is a really cool urban development project. It's called the Atlanta Beltline. And we're going to drive over the Atlanta Beltline Trail just about now here. So once we get to this bridge, I'll have y'all look down below us to our left and also to our right-hand side. You will see people walking, enjoy the day out on the Atlanta Beltline Trail.
Cool.
So the Beltline Trail is a 22-mile loop, and it connects over 45 different Atlanta neighborhoods. So it's a really cool way to just like take a stroll and see what you run into. There's a bunch of shops and restaurants and breweries all lining the trail. Really cool spot to like bar hop as well because it's like a privately owned trail. It's open containers. You can take your drink with you to go, and yeah, it's just a really cool way to explore the city. Me personally, I like to eat my way through the Beltline. Bunch of really, really good restaurants. If you guys are foodies like I am, don't skip out on those. Speaking of good food, anybody on board like donuts? Or are you a fan of donuts? A couple is here. I do want to show you guys the best donuts in Atlanta. I wish we had time for a second stop. But to the right is Revolution Donuts. When I was giving my graduation tour to become a tour guide, my boss's 6-year-old son, he was on the tour, and he was like, "You did great, but you didn't talk about Revolution Donuts. You have to do that." So, you guys know, I'm doing my job. You know about Revolution Donuts. Best donuts in the city, in my opinion, for sure. But enough about food. We're going to continue east into our next neighborhood, which is called Inman Park. So Inman Park is named after Samuel Inman, who's friends with the engineer who designed this neighborhood in the late 1880s. His name was Joel Hurt. I do want to show you some original homes to the neighborhood. To the left here, this yellow house is original from the 1890s. It's called Sugar Magnolia. It's a bed and breakfast. You can see the Victorian-style architecture. It is absolutely gorgeous. And in the back, there's a carriage house called White Space. It was transformed into a modern art gallery. So another one of those examples of us trying to turn our old historic buildings into something new and fun. So Inman Park was Atlanta's very first suburb. It was a streetcar suburb. So back in the day, before cars were around, you could get anywhere in Atlanta using the Atlanta streetcar. It was a way more of a complex system than our little 3-mile loop that we have today. However, with this being the very first suburb of Atlanta, this is where the wealthy white population lived back in the day. And now coming up on the right-hand side, in between the trees here, we're going to pull it next to this black metal cylindrical structure thingy, and I'll let you guys get a good look before I give you a multiple choice question on what we think this thing was used for. So to the right, do we think that thing was a phone booth, a jail cell, or a bathroom? Raise your hand for phone booth, anybody? Phone booth? About 1, 2, 3, 4 for phone booth. Jail cell? 1, 2 for jail cell. How about bathroom? Most of us bathroom. All right, so you are correct. It is a jail cell. So he's killing it on the trivia up here. But yeah, yeah, he said jail cell as well. So congratulations, you guys get extra points. So this thing is called a lockup box. Essentially, what it was a one-man holding tank. So what would happen was somebody would catch a criminal, like literally citizen's arrest. They would stick him inside there. He would turn the lamp on top, and this light would notify the police wagons. So this is before cars. So when the wagons made their rounds and saw that the light was on, they knew somebody was in there to pick them up and then take them back to the police station downtown. Yeah, no, it is insane. Faithfully deemed inhumane, no longer used today, unless somebody wants to drop off a family member. But if you guess bathroom, I will give you a half point because who knows how long somebody was stuck in there for. It could be a little more multifunctional. To the right, 3 more original homes in a row, all from the 1890s. The one in the middle here has over 13 different colors of paint on it. And the dog is on the porch. I love it when the dog's out. And there's another original home from the 1890s on the other side of it as well. And on the left-hand corner, this brick home is the Woodruff home. I mentioned Robert Woodruff, talking about Woodruff Park. He's that second chairman / owner of Coca-Cola. He lived in this house here. He lived here with his father, Ernest. Now, Ernest was a part of the trust company that later formed Sun Trust Bank, which is now Truist Bank. So, as you can imagine, it really was like the wealthiest of wealthy people live in this neighborhood back in the day. Kind of like the who's who in Atlanta. To the right, this long green building is called the Trolley Barn. So this is where one would come to catch the streetcar back to the downtown area back in the day when the streetcar came over this direction. Now today the Trolley Barn is a beautiful venue space. So if you don't want to get married in our cemetery, you can totally get married right here at the Trolley Barn instead. And as we pass by, if you guys want to twist around, on the back side of the building, there's the original trolley arches from where the streetcar would come in and out of. Alright, so I mentioned the Woodruff home associated with Coca-Cola. A lot of people say this neighborhood was built by and for Coca-Cola owners. So once we get towards the end of this street, I'll point out to you guys two houses associated with Asa Candler. So Asa Candler, talk about the Candler building, he was that founder of the Coca-Cola empire. Asa Candler was a wholesale druggist, and he was friends with Dr. Pemberton, the guy who created the original Coca-Cola formula. So between the two of them, they started the company, but Asa Candler really was like the business mind behind everything. So the first house that he built in this neighborhood is to the right. He built this house for his little brother as a wedding present. Wow. Pretty extravagant wedding present, I'd say. And it seems really sweet until you see the house that he built for himself right next door. This is what I call a big brother flex here. I think maybe he was trying to one up his little brother just a little bit. But yeah, so he built this house for a whopping $13,000, which I wish I could get a house like this today for $13,000. But it is now owned by HBO, and they do a lot of filming there as well. I don't know if y'all have heard of the TV show Lovecraft Country, but a lot of the scenes for that TV show were filmed at Asa Candler's house. And as we move through the rest of the neighborhood, I do want to mention, earlier I talked about how the Phoenix is the city symbol for Atlanta, but Indian Park, they have a symbol of their own, and that is of the butterfly, which you might have already noticed. So outside some of the houses, to the left, on the porch of this yellow house, you can see a butterfly poster up there. There's a lot of butterfly posters, flags, decorations all throughout this neighborhood, and the butterfly represents the story of Indian Park. So, with the rise of the automobile, the wealthy population living in this neighborhood, they all bought cars and they didn't need to live in this streetcar suburb anymore. So they did end up moving further away. Now this whole neighborhood, it did suffer a drastic decline. It became sort of a red light district. There was a lot of crime and drugs, and eventually this whole neighborhood was, but yeah, they've won a ton of awards as well. I believe it was Better Homes and Gardens voted the #1 lobster roll in the entire United States, which is kind of crazy to be in Georgia, so that's for sure saying something. It's for sure worth checking out, Beetle Cat for seafood. Now also to the left, I want to point out, on the left-hand side, this wide open empty space, this is called Freedom Park. This is actually where they already started the demolition process that was going to cut through the rest of the neighborhood. So there used to be more historic homes right here in this section, and then to the left, you'll be able to see the stair walk-ups from where the houses used to be in this area. And so once they were able to stop the demolition, the highway project, it was redirected and it was renamed. So it was renamed to John Lewis Freedom Parkway after John Lewis, who was a freedom rider and a civil rights activist. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Freedom Riders at all, but they're a group of activists during the civil rights movement who rode on the segregated buses as a form of protest, really bolstered the movement, made a ton of progress. So we do have a lot of thanks to John Lewis, and we are going to hop on that John Lewis Freedom Parkway today as a part of our route. And now being a Freedom Parkway, it does connect two very historic Georgians who have both won Nobel Peace Prizes. We just came from one, and that is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Now the second historic Georgian highlighted on the Freedom Parkway is Jimmy Carter. So we're going to pass by the Carter Center in the next couple minutes as well. But before we do get over there, I do like to check in with y'all. I like to see how we're doing. I like to check in with our 3 goals, all right? So goal number 1, are we having fun? Yeah! All right, sounds good. How about goal number 2? Are we learning something? Yeah! Amazing, amazing. That makes my little tour guide heart happy to hear. I am a little hesitant to ask about goal number 3, but are we all ready to move to Atlanta? Wow! Yeah, I've never heard a lot of silence. But anyways, a little less enthusiastic than I was hoping for. All right, but you know what? The tour's not over. We still have time to change y'all's minds. Okay, we're gonna work on it. I promise. We'll work on that 3rd goal. We'll get there. No worries at all. But thanks for checking in with me. We're getting ready to hop on that John Lewis Freedom Parkway. But before we do, I do really quickly want to point point out a little trail. So to the left and to the right hand side of Plains, Georgia, where he's originally from and where he's now currently laid to rest.
How far is it to Plains? How far are we from Plains?
A couple hours south, right? How far? Yeah, a couple hours south of Atlanta. But yeah, so next trivia question. Can anybody tell me what Jimmy Carter's job was before he was president, before he was governor? That's right, he was a peanut farmer. Now, with being a farmer, the Carter Center here, they do a nod to being a farmer. Every Saturday morning, there's a farmer's market that happens right here at the Carter Center. So if y'all are around on Saturday, I would highly recommend checking out Freedom Farmer's Market. It runs year-round, every Saturday, 8:30 to noon. Really cool spot to grab breakfast, pastries, sweet treats, things like that. Everything's from small businesses, local places, or fresh produce from local surrounding farms of the Atlanta area. Yeah, you have tons of farmers markets in Atlanta. I think Freedom Farmers Market is definitely the best one. But speaking of produce, Georgia is known as what state? Peach State, that is correct. Although, statistically, it is not true. There's another state very, very close to us that actually produces more peaches than we do. Does anyone want to take a guess? We're gonna go a little bit north. It's South Carolina. So South Carolina is technically the real peach state. They produce more than we do. We do produce more blueberries and peaches, not the most, but more than peaches. So I don't know. I guess we're the blueberry state, but that just doesn't really have the same vibe to it. Doesn't roll off the tongue quite as easily the blueberry state. We do have a name for the young ladies here in Georgia. We call them Georgia peaches. If somebody tried to call me a Georgia blueberry, I don't know. It's just not the same vibe, you know. I think of that girl from Willy Wonka, right? Like, she could be called a Georgia blueberry, not me. So for branding purposes, we're gonna stick to the peach state. But now y'all know it's not statistically true. You know, I always say quality over quantity. Anyways, our peaches here in Georgia are sweeter, so we'll leave it at that. But anyways, we're moving into our next neighborhood, which is called Ponce, named after Ponce de Leon. Now, Ponce de Leon did not make it this far north. He was doing his thing down in Florida. Does anybody know what he was in search of? That's right, he was looking for the Fountain of Youth. Now, we thought we had our own Fountain of Youth here in this area. There was a spring here that we thought was going to give us eternal life. It wasn't until too late that we realized the spring is actually just poisoning us. A little too much sulfur in that Fountain of Youth. So, as a joke, as an homage, we have a Ponce area and a Ponce de Leon Avenue. The street parallels the one we're turning on now.
So basically the opposite.
Exactly, the opposite of a Fountain of Youth, for sure. But yeah, so on top of this spring, they very quickly covered up the poisonous spring. They built this huge warehouse. Now, y'all look way too young. I doubt we remember a store called Sears. Alright, Sears and Roebuck Warehouse, where we operated out of for a little bit until it became an amazing marketplace called Ponce City Market. Has anybody been to Ponce City Market yet?
No.
A couple of us here, fantastic. For those of us who haven't, I'll give you guys the whole rundown, where to go, what to see, how to explore it once we get over there. Before we do, last time we drove over the belt line. This time we're going to drive under the belt line. So this bridge in front of us you see here, people walking on top. We've wrapped back around towards that same Atlanta Beltline trail. And as we head under, there's going to be some murals to your left and to your right-hand side to check out before we start talking about Ponce City Market. You can imagine, it's one of those places you can walk in, you can close your eyes and point. Whatever you point at, it's going to be delicious. You cannot go wrong there. I've made it a mission for myself to try every place to eat in Ponce City Market. I've not completed my mission yet, but I'm definitely well underway. And also through the third floor, they do have access to that Atlanta Beltline trail right there. So it'll take you up through the buildings, put you right out on the trail. It's a nice overlook, really good starting point to explore the trail after exploring Ponce City Market.
Roof.
Yeah, and that's exactly, you know where I'm going with this. So, as soon as we get to the front of the building, you can see just how huge of a complex of a building it is. You can see those big red letters up on the roof there, spelling out Ponce City Market. Those all light up at night, but so does the entire rest of the rooftop because it's actually an amusement park up on the roof. They've got putt-putt golf and rides and games all on the roof of Ponce City Market. And I do want to give y'all a little Atlanta hack if you want to bypass the $20 entrance fee to get up on the roof there. There is a restaurant on the roof called 9 Mile Station. You can make a reservation at that restaurant. Those $20 will go towards your bill for your meal instead. And then after your meal, you'll have access to the rest of the roof for fun and games. So it really is just everything you need in one spot. Fun, food, shopping. It's all there. I go pretty frequently. Definitely one of those things loved by locals and tourists alike. So I would for sure just recommend just swinging by, even if it is just grabbing a bite to eat. Alright, so we're still like adjacent to the old 4th Ward name. I do like to take a little bit of time here and get to know you guys just a little bit. I like to go around, I like to see where everybody's coming from and play a little game called Who Traveled the Farthest to hang out with Lester and I today. So we'll start right here. Where are you guys coming from?
Houston.
From Houston to, that's right, my Texans on board. A lot of cool art museums in Houston. I was there not too long ago. Really enjoyed my time there. So yeah, lived on Peachtree Street, and she lived in this house just to the left here. And this is actually now a house museum. So you can take a tour. She lived in the apartment on the second floor there. You can take a tour of, where's that? Oh, in the basement, sorry, excuse me. She lived in the basement. You can take a tour of the Margaret Mitchell house and see where she lived and kind of what her life was like while she was living here on Peachtree Street. Now, I said she lived on Peachtree Street, but she also unfortunately died on Peachtree Street. So in the 1950s, she was on her way to see a movie. She was crossing Peachtree Street, and she was struck by a moving vehicle, and she unfortunately died a couple days later in the hospital. So I always say, you know, follow the Margaret Mitchell rule, look both ways before you cross Peachtree Street. But I would recommend checking out that Margaret Mitchell house. Just another little piece of history here in Midtown. All right, so we'll continue to drive through the Midtown area. To your left and to your right-hand side is the Midtown MARTA stop. So MARTA is our public transportation we have here in Atlanta. Our trains are super easy to understand. It's just one big cross. We've got a north and a south line, an east and a west line. So yeah, you can always trust a MARTA train. Do not trust a MARTA bus. Okay, you'll never get to where you're trying to go. Now, if you want to take a look at this intersection, we're now about to cross over West Peachtree Street. So it gets worse and worse, I swear. But all right, so we are making our way. We're going to move away from the Midtown area. We are going to drive through Georgia Tech campus and then eventually re-enter the downtown area once more. So we do have a lot to look forward to as we start to kind of round out our trip for today. Georgia Tech campus. You'll see all these trees lining the street here in this section of Midtown, or really honestly all throughout Atlanta, even especially the campuses. So Atlanta is actually known as the city in a forest, which is probably my favorite fun fact about Atlanta, is that we have the most tree coverage out of any major urban center ever. So yeah, it's really cool to know you're never too far away from nature. Even if you're more of an outdoorsy person, if you go just a little bit north of the city, you can, there's a bunch of state parks, hiking trails, waterfalls, things like that. We've got a little bit of everything for everyone. And yeah, also all these trees are very helpful for keeping temperatures lower in the city as well. Each one of these trees in the city is about equivalent to one air conditioning unit. So we do have very hot Atlanta summers. I don't want to even know how much hotter it would be if we didn't have all these trees. So definitely very thankful to be the city in a forest. And you'll really see a good example of all the tree coverage once you get more towards that Georgia Tech campus. But yeah, now that I've said it, you'll start to notice just like, oh, there are really just trees all over the city here.
That's where we came in. We saw there's so many trees, like it's equal to an actual.
When you came into the city, yeah, exactly, yeah. So it was built in a forest, basically. So glad you take note of that. Very observant. Yeah. So currently, what divides Midtown and downtown is this highway we're getting ready to hop on. So another really cool urban development project coming to Atlanta is called the Stitch. So what they plan to do is to go over the highway and stitch together Midtown and downtown using public parks and pedestrian-friendly areas, and kind of better create connectivity and flow between the two neighborhoods and bring that buzz, that liveliness that's in the Midtown area into the downtown area once more. So for sure, a lot of fun things coming to get their start in their musical career here in the Atlanta area. So what I like to do as we take a little bit of time to make our way towards that Georgia Tech campus, I like to play some songs from some Georgia natives, and I like to do a little music trivia here as well. So if y'all can tell me the name and the artist of the song, you get points. If you sing along, you also get points, all right? So I will be listening for those gorgeous voices of yours. So this first song, you cannot be in Atlanta and not be in Georgia and not play this song. Let's see if you guys get it. Here we go. Any guesses so far?
Georgia.
Anybody know who sings
Georgia.
it? What's that? That's correct, Ray Charles. This is Georgia on My Mind by Ray Charles. I saw some singing over here. Points to you for singing. Ray Charles, points to you for the name of the artist. Very soothing start to our music trivia. All right, this next song is a bit of a vibe shift, all right? So here's your official warning. Looking for 3 artists on this next track, all right? 3 artists. 3 artists, you know?
Snoop Dogg.
Usher.
What's that? Not quite.
Usher. Usher.
Lil Jon, that's right. Ludacris. Points right here, points right there. Back there as well, I heard you guys. So yeah, definitely I would say Atlanta is like the mecca of rap. A lot of rappers are from Atlanta or get their start in Atlanta. For sure, we love our rappers here in the Atlanta area. Alright, Usher, Lil Jon, and Ludacris. Alright, we'll rewind it in time just a little bit. Let's see you guys get this next one. We gotta sing along here. Anybody know who sings it? B-52. Wow. So points to you for knowing all the words immediately. That's fantastic. So yeah, thinking about the Atlanta Highway. B-52s are actually from Athens, so about an hour and a half from here. Athens is a huge hub for music as well. A lot of bands coming out of Athens. Apparently the Love Shack was actually a place along the Atlanta Highway. It has since closed down, but the song was inspired by a real place. The Big 3 is going to be coming up on the right-hand side, just past this next intersection here, but I'll start talking about it now so we know what we're looking at. The first of the Big 3 is called the Center for Civil and Human Rights. So the top floor of this center is more of a global perspective of human rights, and the second floor focuses on the American Civil Rights Movement. And in the basement here, they do have the writings and the works of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., so all of his letters from when he was in jail, they're housed right here at the center as well. Now, once we cross over, you'll be able to see a lot of construction going on. They are working on a museum expansion project, and towards the end of finishing up that project. So unfortunately, the museum is not currently open, but they do plan on holding their reopening in fall of 2025. So all y'all have to come back a little bit later this year to see what they add to the museum. I mean, it's just really cool to see that zoomed out global perspective of human rights and then zooming back into that local history of Georgia in the United States as well. And also, once we pass by, you'll see, architecturally speaking, it is a very interesting building to look at. Here we go. Very unique style architecture. I mean, all 3 of the Big 3 really have standout architecture. I think this one is my favorite of the 3, though. So that's the first Big 3. Now, the Big 3, they're all centered around this little green space, this park called Pemberton Place, which we heard of Dr. Pemberton. He's the guy who created the original Coca-Cola formula. Which will bring us to the second of the Big 3, the World of Coca-Cola, also on the right-hand side here. Also known as the Coke Museum. Anybody been to the Coke Museum yet? A couple of us here, fantastic. So going after, great, fantastic, great to hear. So we talked just a little bit about Coca-Cola history today, but here at the World of Coca-Cola, you get the full scope on how Coca-Cola came to be. You see the old logos, the old bottles, the signs from when they only used to sell Coca-Cola in pharmacies. Did y'all do the tasting room at the end? So the tasting room, they've got Coca-Cola products you can try from all over the world. My favorite is called Inca Cola. It's from Peru. It's very, very sweet. And I always recommend people try the Beverly from Italy because it's really delicious and not disgusting at all. And you'll have a great time, I promise.
Don't listen to Jay.
To put it nicely, I will say the Beverly soda is memorable, okay? So just try at your own risk there. A lot of interesting flavors going on at the World of Coca-Cola. And I did have some Pepsi fans back there, right? And for my Pepsi fans, I have been told there is a way to get a Pepsi at the World of Coca-Cola. So all you have to do is ask for a normal 16-ounce bottle of Coca-Cola. You receive your Coca-Cola, you take the cap off, you walk away for an hour. When you come back, it's flat enough to be considered Pepsi, all right? I had to, I'm sorry. Thank you for being a good sport back there. But yeah, the World of Coca-Cola is definitely super interactive, super fun. But yeah, and last but certainly not least, y'all might have guessed it, the third of the Big 3 is the Georgia Aquarium, also on the right-hand side here. The Georgia Aquarium actually opened as the largest aquarium in the whole world. It is now third to Singapore and China, but it's still the largest here in the Western Hemisphere. There's so much to do and see here. My favorite exhibit here at the Georgia Aquarium are the beluga whales. I don't know why, but I cry every time I see them. They're so weird. I love them so much. But yeah, also the dolphin and the seal presentations, really interesting. Definitely would call them presentations and not like shows because they are so focused on conservation efforts and just really taking care of our marine friends right here at the Georgia Aquarium. So those are my 3 recommendations for exploring the downtown area, all just really classic downtown things. Now just ahead of us here, you might recognize as the spot you got on the trolley, but will very sadly have to get off the trolley. It breaks my heart. We are getting ready to conclude our tour for today. If you all want to give it up for Lester, our driver, navigating these streets like a pro. Lester is the only person in Atlanta who knows how to drive, and I stand by this. But yeah, if you guys had a good time today, we do accept tips. If you need tips of your own, questions, recommendations, Lester and I will definitely be here to help you all out. Also, if you guys want to do us a huge favor, you can always drop us a good review on Google or TripAdvisor. We would very much appreciate it. Our names are Lester and Katie. If you want to leave a bad review, our names are not Lester and Katie, alright? But yeah, that's everything we have for y'all. Happy Wednesday, safe travels home, or wherever you guys are heading to next. And thanks so much for letting me show you guys my favorite city in the whole world. I appreciate y'all. Alright, we'll let you get off here at a safe drop-off location.